Are you looking for an Amazon Kindle Direct publishing alternative? Would you like to see something that's very similar in Kindle Unlimited by way of something called Kobo Plus? Well, you can now do that through a platform called Kobo Writing Life. And believe it or not, Kobo Plus is a little bit better than what you get with something like KDP Select, where it's an exclusive program. Kobo Plus allows you to be non-exclusive, meaning that you can reach all of their readers through a subscription-based service called Kobo Plus. And more recently, in April of 2023, Kobo Writing Life just announced that they're expanding their subscription-based service Kobo Plus to the United States and UK, and they have a ton of other regions. So I was super happy to sit down and speak with the director over at Kobo Writing Life, Tara Cremin. And without any further ado, let's jump right into this very insightful interview. It's still hot news right now. Kobo Plus it launched over into the US and UK. Formerly, it was just in Canada. This is super exciting news. Share with me, what does this expansion mean for Kobo Writing Life and the authors utilizing the platform?
So what it means is that our Kobo Writing Life authors now get to put their books into the subscription market in the US and the UK. So that's sort of rounding out our core English geos. So we've had the subscription model available in European geos. We launched in our home turf in Canada in 2020, expanded into Australia and New Zealand. And now finally we're bringing it to the US and the UK again. So it sort of just rounds out that kind of market for authors that are sort of the main areas where you're going to be selling books in English language. So we were really stoked to be able to roll this out.
With this super wide distribution, do you guys anticipate that you'll be reaching any other markets at all?
Maybe in the future. I mean, never say never, but right now we're focusing on these areas and sort of really developing this, because they're areas that are familiar with Kobo. They know our devices, they know our interface and our systems and how everything works. And now we're just trying to entice that subscription reader to get into the Kobo mindset.
Fantastic. All right, let's take it a couple steps back, because there's probably going to be some people that are listening in on this conversation and saying, okay, what exactly is Kobo Writing Life and what is Kobo Plus? So let's just back it up a little bit. What is Kobo Writing Life?
Sure. So Kobo Writing Life is Kobo's self-publishing platform. So it allows authors and publishers to easily publish their books, and those can be available on kobo.com and our partner sites. So you can publish ebooks and audiobooks directly with us. So it's just an easy way of getting your books up into the Kobo system and getting in front of Kobo customers. And so Kobo Plus, in addition to this, is sort of it's like an all-you-can-read, all-you-can-listen model for the customer. So they can pay, depending on the geo, there's a monthly subscription, and it's as much as they can read, as much as they can listen. Some of the plans are as much as they can read and listen. And so what we're allowing Kobo Writing Life authors to do is to really easily get their books into this catalog and in front of this growing audience.
Oh, very good. So let's take a look at Kobo Plus for just a moment here. I did notice that there's 3 different models and entry points for readers to get into this. Explain those 3 separate models. And also, I think everybody's going to want to know, how much does it cost for the readers, and what do the authors get for the readers reading their books?
So the costs really vary on the geo that you're in, but I think we're kind of primarily focusing on the US market here. So I'll sort of use that as my basis. So if you are a customer and you are a voracious reader and you just like reading the next book after the next book, so rather than buying each book individually, you'd have the option of paying, I think it's $7.99. I'll have to verify the pricing actually. $7.99 in the US for just reading ebooks, and that allows you to sort of just any books that you would like to read that are available in the Kobo Plus catalog. You can pay that monthly subscription and read as many of these books as you would like. If you'd prefer to just listen to audiobooks, you have that option as well. Or perhaps you want to bounce between both ebooks and audiobooks. So I do believe it's $9.99 in the US to have a monthly subscription where you can listen and read as many of the Kobo Plus books that you would like. So then on the author side, which is sort of the
Okay.
kind of more important to your audience, I would say. It works out on a revenue share model. So it's very similar to how a lot of the subscription models are working in the market. So what we do is that we take all of the subscription revenue per month, and that is sort of one pool of money. And then what we do is divide that. And the main difference about how we calculate the payment is that instead of page reads, we're actually using the minutes that a book has been read or listened to. One of the reasons that we do this is that it allows us to treat these ebooks and audiobooks exactly the same. So we're using minutes as our calculation. So we have your pool of subscriber revenue, and we divide that by the total number of minutes that the books have been read in this geo in this month. And that gives us what's called the value per minute. So this is very similar to sort of like a page read. It's the value that we're using each month, and this will ebb and flow as subscribers dip in and dip out, and there's more books read or less books read. So then we're using this, and for your book, we are using this value per minute. We're multiplying the amount of minutes that your book was read, and then the author's revenue is 60% of this then at the end. So it sort of sounds complicated, but it isn't really. It's very similar to the other subscription models.
Interesting. So if I've got like an epic length novel, I'm probably going to it's safe to say, I'm probably going to make a lot more with my epic length novel versus, say, my short children's kids book. I just was redundant.
Yeah, the shorter books will just take a little bit longer to gain the traction, but yeah, it is sort of because it's based on the minutes. The longer the book, the more that you would get paid. But it's sort of an interesting thing that we're noticing is that actually box sets are doing really, really well in this model. So that's something where people can bundle a bunch of books together. So with Kobo, we actually don't have any higher price cap when you are making box sets. So if you are having a box set that can be multiple books together, if it's priced over $9.99, you're still earning 70% on those full priced sales. So you can price it as high as you want within reason. But what we're seeing, which is kind of interesting to me, is that even with a subscription model, when you do have access to all the individual books, our customers sort of see it as a convenient way of getting a box set and just having all of the books in one place. So we're definitely noticing those kind of float to the top of our top read books is definitely something there. And because those are longer books as well, so you're getting paid for all of that. You're also getting paid for any rereads that are happening. So that's something to note that people might not realize.
Oh, interesting. So someone can probably say, check out my book. They go through, they read the whole thing, and say another couple months from now, they check it out again, and I will still get credit again for something like that.
Yeah, it's the entire time that a book is being
can I
read.
triple dip? Does that mean that...
I mean, I wouldn't want you to encourage a customer to be... I mean, if they're a fan and want to read it a bunch of times, that's awesome. But you want to make sure that you're being very clear. This is a book that maybe you already own.
Right. You're not wanting to manipulate the system. This is super fascinating. And one of the part, I don't know if you've addressed this already, is exclusivity versus non-exclusivity. And I think one of the unique parts is the fact that you guys don't require non-exclusive. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I should have definitely said that off of the top of the bat. Probably the biggest differentiator is that there is no exclusivity required. So our ethos in general is that we want you to get your books in front of as many readers however they want to read them. So we wouldn't want to tie you into just being in one storefront by participating in this. So we want you to be able to put your books into Kobo Plus and also publish wherever else that you want to publish. So we even built out our Kobo Plus system to allow you to you can select the geos. So if you want to test out the US market, but you don't want to test out another place, you can do that. You can select exactly where you're going. You can also remove your books at any time. We don't have any time limit on them. I'd encourage you to leave your books in to try and gain traction, of course, but we're not going to kind of penalize or restrict authors in any way. So we wanted to really build this out, giving as much control to authors as possible.
So interesting. Having my book, let's say in Kobo Plus, will it help me out, say, in building relevancy on the Kobo platform? Meaning that will my book be more discoverable by having this additional option?
I do think it helps with your temperature on Kobo. So that's what we kind of call your ranking. So it's not based solely on sales on the Kobo store. It is based on, how much you're being browsed or looked at. Books that are similar to yours are being read. So it definitely will help with your temperature because you're going to be featured in different areas because we'll now have, our different spotlights related to ebooks and stuff, but there's also going to be this whole other area where we're kind of like highlighting these books to the Kobo Plus reader. So it definitely will help that. I know that our merchandising team are definitely going to appreciate books that are also included in Kobo Plus, just because it'll be helping us sort of boost that and kind of just double down on the kind of attention that we're getting on that book for sure.
So cool. Now you're getting into like the nerdy land. I love this. So let's talk a little bit more about temperature. Does temperature vary from one region to the next? So will my temperature be different in the US, say, versus the UK?
Yeah, it is. It is very tailored to each geo. So at Kobo, we like to take what we call a globally local view of book selling. So we are a global company, books being sold all over the world. But we do know that there are certain nuances between selling books. Even between the US and Canada, there are differences, but particularly in between like selling books in Europe or selling them in North America. So in that sense, yes, your temperatures, it does vary because we are kind of trying to individualize the storefronts as best that we can to those specific markets.
This is so cool. So I've got another question we can kind of build off on this one. Will it favor the author, or will the temperature increase, if you will, if I have both the ebook and audiobook available on Kobo?
That is a great question. I believe so. If they were both in Kobo Plus as well, I don't see why not. But I definitely do think, because we link them together on your product page. So if it's really important, this is now to get into really nerdy territory, is where your metadata is just the most important thing here, because you want to be able to link your ebook and your audiobook. So you want to make sure that you have your ISBNs entered correctly, and you want to make sure that your series is entered correctly. And then even to go another level, you might notice when you're publishing with Kobo Writing Life that we do have an area for you to put your print ISBN in. And while we don't sell print books on Kobo, some of our partner stores do. So what this does is actually allows our partner stores to link, your print book, your ebook, and your audiobook all together. So for instance, in like bol.com in the Netherlands, they'd be using this, or any other partners that we have. So in case you were ever wondering why we were asking for that, even though we don't sell print, it's so we can link all of this together and, as you were saying in your question, sort of like help increase the temperature overall for these books.
So cool. Okay, so you've talked about metadata. I love this. So could we dive a little bit more into keywords? Because I know you guys allow for keywords in the back end. How does that affect temperature? And what is the best way for me to research keywords on the Kobo platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. We often get asked about, because we don't have a field per se where you can just sort of enter a bunch of keywords as you could in other platforms. So what I would say is to be a bit more mindful with how you're using them. You can certainly put them into your synopsis at the bottom if you want to, or even within your book. But the way that our search sort of works is that it's going to filter through to like your title, your subtitle, and then through the rest of your metadata. So what I would really do is make sure that your synopsis is, I always say SEO optimized, even though the O is optimization, but that you're really curating your synopsis to be as SEO friendly as possible, and using those keywords in a way where it's not so obvious to the reader that, hey, this is a keyword. You're instead of just saying jam-packed thriller, you could kind of entice it into sort of like this thriller is, something that is a bit more inventive than that. But I would say, you can tell I'm not a writer, right? But I would say to include that subtly within your synopsis itself is probably the best way to leverage that in our system. And we're always looking for ways to sort of add this stuff to the store. So you never know, there might be keywords in the future.
What about reviews? How do reviews work? And also, if somebody checks out my book on Kobo Plus, are they able to leave a review for it?
Yeah, so the reviews can be done on the kobo.com store. So they get a prompt, I think, if they're reading for free on the app. So we have an app that's available on iOS and Android, so they can leave reviews after the fact. They can leave reviews through our Kobo e-reading devices as well, and then through the store too. So that's a great point. You can definitely, I would say as an author, really encourage people to leave reviews reviews on Kobo as they're reading your book and as they're checking out a Kobo Plus, because customers certainly use reviews to help decide on their purchasing.
Okay, so will the reviews affect temperature at all?
I don't think so. Other than, I don't think it goes into the temperature itself per se. That is a good question, though, but I don't believe so.
Okay. See, I told you, I love talking about this type of stuff, and I think it's super fascinating, especially seeing, and I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. I mean, you've got KDP over here that they have so many moving parts and such, and it seems like they dominate the field. And this is why I get so excited about Kobo Writing Life, because you guys are a viable contender and you have so many of these tools in place. And so that's why it's like, oh man, I love chatting about this. What would be one thing about Kobo Writing Life that you like the most, but the authors know the least about or don't recognize the most?
I mean, I like everything about the platform that we work on. I think I think just something in general that I think is a real differentiator to Kobo and Kobo Writing Life is the fact that we do everything ourselves. It's like a small team, and our main focus is really just on the digital reading experience. So when we're making the devices, they're sort of designed in-house. We're doing all of that ourselves, and it's always to make sure that we're kind of optimizing as best as possible, and we often come to market first with new features and devices and things like that. So we're not trying to get a customer into the Kobo ecosystem to sell them something else. It really is about the reading experience. And we definitely use that mindset when it comes to Kobo Writing Life as well. So we're definitely keeping the authors front and foremost when we're developing these features. So for instance, like with building out Kobo Plus in these new areas, like making sure that we included the option to select the geos, deselect them, giving as much control as possible. We spend the time listening to authors and engaging that feedback. So that's probably something that I like the most, is that I get to work with a bunch of people that just love books and really want to make this experience the best that it can be. And I guess maybe authors might not realize that is really, it's our bread and butter.
So speaking of readers, one of my favorite apps I have right now is Libby. You're probably familiar with Libby because it's put out by Overdrive. So let's address libraries, getting distribution via Kobo Writing Life. Is that still available? And how can authors upload to something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Overdrive, they're a former sister company of ours, and we still work very closely with them. And we love libraries, headquartered here in Toronto. We have one of the largest library systems in North America, so we're big fans. All of our Kobo devices come with Overdrive integration, so it's super easy for a reader to be able to just enter their library number and check out books through their devices. It's really awesome. So from an author perspective, it's so easy to distribute. All you need to do is just enter a library price, and then it goes into the Overdrive system. And we even have kind of like promotions that are tailored around the libraries from time to time as well. But we definitely hear about just it increasing, especially just digital library lending is definitely on the rise and not slowing down, it seems. So I definitely would encourage people, if you're wide, I don't see why you wouldn't make your books available to the libraries, because it's a great system to support. And I know authors sometimes get questions from readers being, I can't afford your books, unfortunately. And it can be something where you can always be like, yeah, you can go to the library and you can ask for them and get them there. And then that way that you're still making, you're still earning from your content there as well.
What does the royalties work out with Overdrive? And does Kobo Writing Life take a percentage of those earnings?
Yeah, so the authors earn 50% of any library sale that goes through. So I think it is basically the highest rate that is out there for library distribution. I believe it's the same as if you were going direct with Overdrive. So it's a pretty good deal if you're coming to Kobo Writing Life, that you earn 50% on each sale.
See, look, I know I'm asking all these softball questions because I know some of these things, and I think it's super exciting. I did not know, though, that Overdrive was directly integrated with the Kobo app. Am I right in saying that?
Not the app, the e-readers.
Okay, so the e-readers. So
our Kobo devices.
Yes, like the one you sent to me. So thank you so much for that, by the way. It's been a while since actually.
Dale, are you not reading on the Kobo? Is that what you're doing? You're not reading on it?
Like I said, I usually get on my iPhone here. Well, as we start to wrap up today's
No, that's fine.
As we start to wrap up today's podcast interview, I always ask every guest this, and I want to ask you this one as well, especially since you've spoken with so many authors over the years. What would be some advice that you would give to any aspiring author or self-publisher out there?
I would say, I think first and foremost to keep writing and don't be kind of dismayed by I think it can be wonderful to be independently published. There's so much information out there, but it can be a little bit overwhelming between not knowing where to begin or feeling like perhaps you've missed the window on something. I just don't think that's the case. So I would say really focus on the writing because the more books that you have, the easier it is to market, the easier it is to sort of to build your audience there. And once you have a sort of good collection of books to be writing, then you can focus on the rest of it. And don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're here to help you succeed. So I would definitely say focus on your writing at the beginning. And then when you're ready, come and talk to us. And then we will help you, especially if you're publishing widely.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingwithdale.com for more information on how you can level up your self-publishing business. Also, check out our growing video-on-demand service, chock full of free and premium content, when you head over to theselfpublishinghub.com. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on your preferred podcasting platform. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.